Hello and welcome to Byjus Exam Prep IAS. Wish you all a happy and a Merry Christmas. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Let's look into the first question. Consider the following statements. Measles is a highly contagious bacterial infection. Measles can lead to serious adverse outcomes such as blindness, pneumonia, and encephalitis. Which of the statements given above is are correct? The answer to this is 2 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to the measles vaccine. Let us try and understand what are these statements. When you look into the first statement, measles is a highly contagious bacterial infection. This statement is wrong. Why? That is because it is not a bacterial infection, but instead it is a viral infection. So the first statement is wrong. When you look into the second statement, measles can lead to serious adverse outcomes such as blindness, pneumonia, and encephalitis. Yes, the second statement is right, which is why the answer to this would be B, which is 2 only. Now when you look into the measles, it is spread through the droplets of nose, throat, or mouth of an infected person. The measles vaccine was introduced in 1963, and before that more than 2 million deaths occurred every year attributable to this disease. Currently, despite the availability of a safe and effective vaccine, lakhs of children die every year annually affected by the measles. So most of the deaths are under the age of 5. The measles virus belongs to paramyxovirus family and is normally passed through direct contact and through the air, and due to aggressive immunization drives across the globe, measles deaths have declined by about 73% from 2000 to 2018. What are the symptoms? High fever, runny nose, bloodshot eyes, tiny white spots on the inside of the mouth, rashes on the face, upper neck that spread downwards as well. So in order to overcome this, what we have is the measles vaccine, and this is called the MMR vaccine, giving protection against 3 diseases. One is measles, mumps and rubella. The first dose of MMR is given at the age of 12 to 15 months, and the second one at 4 to 6 years. Adults, teenager can also take MMR vaccinations as required. Now let's look into the next practice question. With respect to Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Grameen Kaushalya Yojana, which of the following statements are correct? It is a centrally sponsored scheme and is part of the National Rural Livelihood Mission. The focus of the scheme is on rural poor youth between the ages of 9 and 18. The scheme is under the Ministry of Rural Development. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is 1 and 3 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Grameen Kaushalya Yojana. Let us try and understand what are these statements. When you look into the first statement, it is a centrally sponsored scheme and is part of the National Rural Livelihood Mission. Yes, the first statement is right. What do we understand by the centrally sponsored scheme? There are two types of scheme. One is what is called a central sector scheme. The other is centrally sponsored scheme. When it comes to the central sector scheme, all the investments are made by the central government. There is no investment financial outlay that is given to the state government, and all the financial investments are made only by the central government. But when it comes to centrally sponsored scheme, a certain amount is contributed by the central government and certain amount is contributed by the state government. It varies as well. So the first statement is right. The focus of the scheme is on rural poor youth between the ages of 9 and 18. This statement is wrong. Why? That is because the focus of the scheme is on rural poor youth between the ages of 15 and 35, which is why the second statement that is given is wrong. The third statement reads the scheme is under the Ministry of Rural Development. Yes, this statement is right. So the answer to this would be C. Now when we look into this particular scheme, this is a centrally sponsored scheme. It is part of National Rural Livelihood Mission, and what are the objectives? Incorporating diversity to the incomes of the rural poor families and catering to the career aspirations of the rural youth. The other idea being that there is large scale migration that happens from the rural areas to the urban areas. In order to promote inclusivity in the rural areas, provide jobs, means and mechanisms, this particular initiative has been taken up where skill training is provided to such people. It is a demand driven skills training program that is placement linked. It supports the social and economic programs of the government such as Digital India, Make in India, Smart City, Startup India, Stand Up India as part of Skill India campaign, and this scheme is under the Ministry of Rural Development. How does this work? Qualified trainers in these training centers will provide job oriented skills training, trained to use computers, tablets, spoken English and other life skills, and after the completion of the training the students are offered placement help as well. What is the eligibility? Rural youth between ages of 15 and 35 are eligible for receiving training under the scheme. Candidates should have any of the following: BPL card, BPL PDS card, Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana. Family members should be registered in self-help group in the village, and family member is a paid worker under Manrega with a minimum of 15 days of work in the last 15 months. If they are able to meet any of this criterion, they would be part of the skill development program. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following statements are correct? The Supreme Court has a sanctioned strength of 34 judges, including the Chief Justice of India. There have been no women Chief Justice of India till date. There is no procedure laid down for the appointment of the CGI in the Constitution. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is 1, 2 and 3. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to women judges. Let us try and understand what are these statements. When you look into the first statement, yes, the first statement is right. The Supreme Court has a sanctioned strength of 34 judges, including the Chief Justice of India. So the first statement is right. When you look into the second statement, there have been no women CGI till date. Yes, this statement is also right as well. All the Chief Justices of India who have held that position as of now till today are only men, and till date we do not have women CJI. As part of the assignment, put on the comment section who was the first woman judge of the Supreme Court. Please put it on the comment section. The third statement reads, there is no procedure laid down for the appointment of the CJI in the Constitution. Yes, this statement is right. Why? Because we do not have any procedure in the Constitution. What we have is a convention. So the outgoing Chief Justice of India will name the next coming Chief Justice of India. So it is the convention that is being followed. There is no clear-cut procedure that is laid for the appointment of the CJI in the Constitution. This statement is right. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements. The Great Barrier Reef contains the world's largest collection of coral reefs. GBR is located on the southeast coast of Australia. It was listed as a World Heritage Site in 1981 when UNESCO recognized its environmental wonder and scientific importance. How many statements given above are correct? The answer to this is 2 statements. Which is the wrong statement? The wrong statement happens to be the second one. GBR is located on the southeast coast of Australia. This statement is wrong. Why? Because it is on the northeast coast of Australia. And the question is asking how many statements are correct. So the first and the third statements are correct. So 2 statements are right. Now if we speak about the Great Barrier Reef, it is a site of remarkable variety and beauty on the northeast coast of Australia. The diversity of species and habitats and the interconnectivity make the Great Barrier Reef one of the richest and most complex natural systems on Earth. It also comprises endemic species and threatened species as listed by the IUCN. It has about 1,500 species of fish, 400 species of coral, 4,000 species of mollusks, and about 240 species of birds, plus a greater diversity of sponges, anemones, marine worms, crustaceans, and other species. And geographical features of the Great Barrier Reef: it has about 2,500 individual reefs of varying sizes, shapes, and over 900 islands. It is larger than the Great Wall of China. Now let's look into the next practice question. With reference to Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha, consider the following statements. As per the rules of procedure and conduct of business in Lok Sabha, the election of Deputy Speaker shall be held on such date as the Speaker may fix. There is a mandatory provision that the election of a candidate as Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha shall be from either the principal opposition party or the ruling party. The Deputy Speaker has the same power as of the Speaker when presiding over the sitting of the House, and no appeal lies against his rulings. The well-established parliamentary practice regarding the appointment of Deputy Speaker is that the motion is moved by the speaker and duly seconded by the Prime Minister. Which of the statements given above are correct? The answer to this is 1 and 3 only. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2022. If you look into the second statement, there is a mandatory provision. No, there isn't any mandatory provision. So the second statement is wrong. And when you look into the fourth statement, the deputy speaker is also elected by the Lok Sabha from amongst its members right after the election of the speaker has taken place. So there is no provision or established practice of moving the motion for his election by the speaker and then seconded by the prime minister. No, this is not there. So the fourth statement is also wrong. So the first and third are correct. So the answer to this would be A. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is sacred groves. What are these sacred groves? This is a piece of a natural vegetation which are protected by the people of a community primarily because it has some religious reasons added to it. The area is also dedicated to a local deity as well. To give you a simple example, most of you would have seen Kantara as a movie. So this is dedicated to a local deity. You also have religious feelings attached to that natural vegetation as well. So if there is a community which is protecting it because it represents a local deity or because there are religious symbolism behind that, that is what is called as the sacred groves. In India, there are over a lakh sacred groves across different states. They go by different name like Koil Kadu in Tamil, Orange in Rajasthan, Devara Kadu in Karnataka, Sernas in Madhya Pradesh. They are also called as Kavu in Malayalam. In Himachal Pradesh, people dust their clothes off when they cross their grooves to ensure that they leave everything behind. As a result, local communities tend to take the responsibility, protect them, nurture them, and they are also looked by joint families who fear that this particular community forest, if it is not taken care, they can also result in wrath of the resident god. So it can be a few trees or it can be an entire forest. So the sacred groves are nothing but a natural vegetation which is taken care by the community of people for the religious reasons as well as because they have a local deity residing in that natural vegetation. So what are these sacred groves? They are tract of virgin forest that is protected traditionally by the local communities as a whole and harbor rich in biodiversity. The area of sacred groves ranges from a few square meters to several hectares. They are dedicated to local deities or tree spirits. People believe that any kind of disturbance will offend the local deity, causing diseases, natural calamities, or failure of crops. The degree of sanctity accorded to the sacred groves varies from one area to another. In some forests, even the dry foliage and fallen fruits are not even touched. Hunting and logging are usually strictly prohibited under these patches, and sacred groves have been legally protected under community reserves in the Wildlife Protection Amendment Act of 2002. What are the threats? The disappearance of the traditional belief system, rapid urbanization and developmental activities, encroachment, transformation of primitive forms of nature worship, invasion by exotic weeds, and pressure due to increasing livestock as well as fuel collection. What is the significance? The sacred grove is a traditional method used by the tribal people to conserve the local forest. Sacred groves help in the protection of a number of rare, endangered, and endemic species. Sacred groves are important repositories of flora and fauna diversity. The vegetation cover of sacred groves improves the soil stability of area, prevents the soil erosion, and sacred groves are often associated with ponds, streams, springs, which support the water requirements of the local people. Thus, the vegetative cover of sacred groves help in recharging the aquifers. These are some of the threats as well as significance with respect to the sacred groves. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.